Okay, and can anybody else see the chat? Or not the chat, the recording,
Captions.
the captioning of the meeting? I can see it on mine.
I don't see it.
Okay, what have I got to do to make that work?
It's on. You have to go down and turn on captions, y'all. But I've got it right now. So if you go to captions and click on it, it will say it. There's a section that
I
says
just
show
did it.
captions.
I just did it.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, good. So first item on the agenda is announcements and agenda adjustments. Any agenda adjustments to be made? Okay, I guess we're good to go. Oh, Susan has,
I have an announcement. If we move to announcements.
okay,
The next recycling event is on October 1st at the shelter, same place, same time, 9 to noon. The big difference this time is that we have an ad in the next month's thingamajiggy, and then we have they're going to give us the message board the week before.
Very nice. Very good.
Yeah, that was our big excitement that we got this year. So we're very pumped about that. The other thing I'll just let y'all know is Eco Generation, which has been a company that has been a nonprofit in town doing a lot of recycling and plastic collection. They have closed down, and I anticipate a significant increase this coming year or this year in the collections, and we might need more help in hauling the bags of plastic to Glenwood the day after. So we need somebody to help us pick up and haul the next day. So I might need some help, trucking and or van related help, but we won't know really until day of. So we'll just have to have people kind of available for us.
that sounds great. October 5th, is it?
No, October 1st.
First.
1. Yes, Sunday.
Makes sense. Thanks for making that happen.
Yeah.
Any other announcements? Yeah,
I had a agenda twist. I sent you a note earlier asking about budget report. Maybe you didn't get it. And Dan isn't here, but I know there's a new budget and I want to know what's going on. We
yeah,
have to know what kind of budget we have to work with for the event and stuff like that.
you're talking about our outreach budget from the city and county.
Well, no, that's a piece of a budget, but what about the other parts of it? I think a lot of us are clueless, including me, especially me.
Our budget for our account has been sort of ad hoc, in that we haven't scheduled we haven't planned the budget. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Money comes in when it comes in, and money goes out when we agree to spend it. Speaking of which, I received a $200 stipend for my presentation for the city at the last neighborhood confab. My intent is to donate that to the neighborhood.
Ditto, except for I'm saving some out to replace my printer.
Good idea. So, yeah, and we do need to institute that as a monthly report. As far as the outreach money, we had an NLC meeting last night. I just created a folder under committees for NLC and put my minutes from that up in the cloud for us in the Google Docs. What Cindy said about that is they saved enough money by prepaying for postage that our funding for this year should be the same as last year. But they intend to revamp the process for when they go to the second trimester, and we should be hearing about that. So don't know how much money we have yet, but it should be essentially the same as last year.
But we'll know like 2 weeks before we have to have it all spent, right?
She said she'd have it out within a week.
You're so serious, John. Okay.
Just reporting what I heard. Any other announcements? I can bring you up to date on what's going on with the CAC and the neighborhood plan. We are meeting tomorrow to review the input from the two neighborhoods. And then theoretically, we will agree to and put together a message to send to the two planning commissions and any recommendations we have to them about our involvement. And then theoretically, it's out of our hands. And we'll see where it goes from there. Any other announcements? Okay. Item number 2 is approve the consent calendar. We have draft minutes for May 24th, June 10th, and July 10th. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Yes, finally, look.
Yeah,
No brace.
Oh, yay.
you can type again. And so hopefully those folks had a chance to look over those. And then also in the consent calendar, and anybody can pull anything they want for discussion, is the River Avenue Navigation Center Good Neighbor Agreement and Communication Procedures Appendix. We've been working on that committee for a process of how basically how the navigation center will relate to the neighborhoods and vice versa. So those are both on the consent calendar. Would anyone like to move to approve them, or would anyone like to pull anything from them? Claire?
I have a request for in future minutes. If I noticed that you listed the attendance in terms of the number of people in the room. I think that's what it was. I think I would find it valuable to have say something like a hybrid meeting, 2 people online, 10 people in the room, or something like that, so we get a feel of how that's going.
Okay.
Good deal. Anything else?
I'll move consent.
Thank you, Beth. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent calendar, please raise your hands in any way you see fit to do so.
I think we're unanimous.
Okay, consent calendar is approved. Thank you. Also, I mentioned that there's SACO's recommendation is at the end of the consent calendar, which is at the bottom of the agenda, because I didn't want to cram it all into here. And in that includes, in case you had any question what Eliza Kosinski's concern was, it's sort of technical that the way the staff had suggested we define our neighborhood is through our neighborhood boundaries. Those are subject to change, and she wanted to make sure that things were identified in a way that it didn't mess things up, and I'm sure that won't be hard to do. Okay, so approved. Yes.
Well, there was a document that was excluded from the consent calendar, which is a letter to the River Road Rec Center. So I sent it out to y'all this afternoon. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. It's basically a rubber stamp from you. Rubber stamp request.
Why
I
don't,
saw it. I corrected a quick typo. That was it.
Yeah, there are a couple typos that have been corrected. Thank you very much for
No
that.
problem.
why don't we approve that when we talk about the event?
All right,
Okay.
sure. I mean, you said you was going to be in the consent calendar, but that's fine.
Okay, my memory's
But we're
different.
done. We're done. That's fine. Move on.
Okay, review previous general meeting. How did it go? It was solely, no, we tried to do a Zoom meeting. The feedback was that it didn't work because the owl was picking up the people closest to it, and it wasn't the people who were actually talking for the meeting. So we're going to try it again this next month, and we will have the owl hopefully strategically placed so that it picks up the speakers, and if people need to speak and be heard, they'll have to come to the front of the room. Other thoughts about the meeting?
There certainly weren't very many people there.
Right.
Do you have any ideas, Beth, about what's going on there?
I don't. I don't. Pre-COVID, we had really pretty good turnout.
Yeah,
30 or more.
And yeah, and so it might even be worthwhile to check in with some of those people that used to come regularly. And if we know any of them and see what's causing that. Um, I know Susan Hillary used to come frequently, and I think she's got a conflict now.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I was going to say, the one big difference from in the past is that we're no longer getting the benefit of Carlene's newsletter.
Yeah,
I personally think that that's a very big loss. And that there were people on that newsletter that we weren't necessarily reaching for whatever reason. And this is not a, it's not a bad or good thing. It's just, it is what it is. And I think that that is impacting some of the attendance. I would also say, it's so much easier to do Zoom for a meeting like this. And I think people are looking at the weather outside and saying, wow, I'd just rather stay home and go sit in a stuffy building. And yeah.
and then the Zoom doesn't go well, so they're not able to really participate.
If we do hybrid, but it goes fine when we do pure Zoom. It
Yeah.
just doesn't do fine when we do hybrid, but then we don't have attendance at the in-person. So I think we should look at it in the fall again and see if we don't get a pickup in the next coming months. I'd propose that we go back to Zoom completely.
Yeah,
Well-
I agree with you that I think Carlene's weekly updates were invaluable.
Is there a way that somebody can pick up that newsletter?
It's an awful lot. I mean, the reality is I think Carlene was just attending everything. She was
She was.
attending all those meetings and doing the summaries, and it made up it was her job.
I know. I know,
And-
sir, definitely.
one
It's
thing
a huge loss not having that newsletter. And yeah.
I could talk to her and get her thoughts on that, and maybe be sure that everybody who's on her newsletter list also gets the e-news meeting invite.
Give them an opportunity to say they want it.
Yeah, well,
Carlene and Pat are too fewer people to attend our meetings.
Yeah. And they always attended all of them.
Absolutely.
I think summer slippage is not unusual, but I think we have more than just summer slippage going on. Let's hope that by repositioning the owl, we have a solution, or else we'll have to keep looking.
the other thing is from the survey feedback, a lot of people were turned off and negative about with our not nice neighborly relations with people who disrupted meetings. And so I think that we're still recovering from that, somehow, hopefully recovering from that.
Although I don't know how we make it clear that that's not the case, at least fingers crossed it's not the case.
Yeah, well, maybe it takes a little time. I don't know. Maybe it's just an excuse.
Well, it's something to think about. Let's do our best to try to make hybrid work, and we'll go from there. We have a direction from Uchi that we are supposed to meet hybrid. So, and I think it's a reasonable request. So we'll see. Let's keep it in front of us.
Yeah, thank you, Claire, for talking to Carlene. I think that would be useful to know if we're missing people that she was communicating with.
Yeah, that of course means that I have to make her dinner.
And
How's
if
she doing?
the
I
last
haven't talked to her recently.
information I had is that she seems to be recovering, but
Oh, man,
I don't know.
good.
Okay. Request for request, sorry about that, for RRCO to adopt a Creative Commons license. This is a request from John Q. Murray, who is doing reporting for whole community news. And he would like us to adopt this policy so that he can publish articles from our newsletters. I don't see that we need to go through this process of signing up for this license. I think he has the right to, in my opinion, he has the right to copy anything he wants from our newsletter, as long as he copies the whole article.
Do you know what Creative Commons is, John?
I took a look at it and it looks like it's a way for people to have a copyright without having a copyright.
Pretty much, but it says there's different levels. You can, you know, and what he's asking for, can I use your material with a crediting the source?
Well, do we need to get a license for him to be able to do that?
Getting a license isn't anything. It's just writing. It's not like, it's just saying common, you know, whatever copyright, just writing that on it.
Well, it's actually a copy left, they call it, but can't we just say you have the right to copy any of our newsletter articles as long as you attribute them and you copy them in full?
That's what it means to get that license, is to just do that.
So you would agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, I don't see the need for the license. Does anybody else?
Is there a way to put something at the bottom of our newsletters that, you know, some sort of verbiage?
Well,
To
there is a copyright thing on there.
Okay.
Maybe he's
I mean, we'd
asking-
have to check with, let me check with the city, because they're the ones that dictate some of the guidelines around that. And we can just see if there's some specific requirement around copywriting. I mean, as you know, I wrote some of the pieces, as some of y'all have done. You know, my attitude is, as long as they're giving credit to
Yeah.
River Road Community Organization, I don't care. But I want them to give credit to River Road Community Organization
Yeah,
as the creators. And I
That's-
do not want him publishing the recycling event, because that's neighborhood information, not for the entire city. And that's a nightmare ready to happen.
So
Mhm.
understood. I agree with you, Susan, but what do we tell him that would preclude that? Do we just communicate with him? We don't want this to be shared with outside the mailing list?
I mean, yeah, I think we just say this is for River Road community members only, period, end of story. It's not relevant to the rest of the community. Therefore, it is not necessary to be printed by the rest for the publication. It's only for River Road.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's my take on it. I don't know this gentleman or know his publication at all, so.
Well,
speak to
there's
that?
my concern, and that is that John Q has written articles about our neighborhood without checking with us, that's cast us in a negative light because the individual had an issue with our neighborhood. And I don't feel that he's a very unbiased reporter, but if it's in our newsletter, I think he should be able to have access to it. Claire?
Yeah, I mean, he does not have, Joshua, I've worked with him for a long time and doesn't trust him at all. He tends to be non-objective news person. So I have two feelings about it. One, I think this endeavor that he's doing to try to make a local news, which we're sorely lacking in this community. And he put out a call, what should be in this local news. And I said, well, you need a neighborhood beat. So I think that that's great to see that kind of evolving. I don't trust him as a journalist. But I think on the most part, it's a positive thing.
Okay, so Susan, you're going to check with the city. Why don't you report back to us by the next board meeting? We'll make a decision. How's that?
Okie dokie.
Okay. Okay. Item number 5, I won't give it a name because Claire didn't like the name I gave it. It's your item, Claire.
Thanks. Well, John gave it the name of what, annual planning or something?
Plan the year.
Planning the year. And I kind of wanted to move away from that framing because our past efforts on doing that have been pretty much, let's all brainstorm about what we want to do and then let's not do it. So, or that's not fair really, because some things we do. So what I was thinking would be useful is to have some overarching goals and that kind of show that we can look at and see if we're moving in the right direction instead of a long to-do list. So, and one of the things so the first goal that I've been thinking about is putting our own house in order. I think that our main challenges are about our organization capacity and being of interest to the community and growing the organization. So there's a lot of little pieces of nitty gritty stuff that happen by the seat of our pants that it'd be pretty easy to streamline, and it was on our to-do list before and nobody owned it. And so it's just like things get, fall through the cracks. We do have a board orientation, so I think the job is to update that. And here are some examples of what I'm thinking about. Procedures for posting minutes and recordings to the webpage and giving access to the community via newsletter notification with links. Procedures for expenditures by committees and board members and how these are budgeted and improved and how they're reimbursed. Editorial policies for publications. Managing the board turnover, like the nitty-gritty stuff like emails and stuff like that. And then how do we support committees that with an eye towards building a bench of involvement by the wider community. So I'm going to stop there for a moment. There's more, but are there comments on that?
I've got my hand up, Claire.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it. Go ahead.
I like what you've got here and I appreciate your doing it. And I think it's good. The thing that's missing is we're really good at making to-do lists. We're not really good about assigning people to do it and following through.
Exactly. That's why we come out of this meeting with people saying, I'm going to do that.
So if I could continue, therefore I suggest that before we leave this in agreement, we also have people who are willing to do it.
Yeah.
And if no one's willing to do it, then we're not going to do it. It's as simple as that. And I would add a few more things to this list to make it work.
I'm sure there's more stuff. Yeah.
First of all, it's my intent to not be co-chair after our election next March. I've got another year in my term, but I don't intend to chair it beyond next March. And in that there is a problem in that I have not been one to put my stuff in the G drive, and that's a fault on my part. But one of the things I commit to do is getting what is RRCO stuff up to the G drive before I am no longer co-chair. That's part of my closing out my term, as it were. The city is going to be providing better management tools for G drive. And that's an area where we have some problems too. And that we've got a lot of documents that have been owned by people who were on the board and are no longer on the board. I think we need to go through and agree to a system of managing our data on the G drive and making sure that the neighborhood organization owns all the documents, and I'm willing to commit to work on that.
Yay. Thank you, John.
The other thing is we've made a furtive attempt at trying to make our webpage better. I'd like to try that again and make it a viable way for people to communicate with us and give them information that they need. Nobody goes to the webpage because it just isn't worth it. I'd like to change that.
I have some suggestions on that in the next section. Yeah. It's a
Okay.
good point though. So
And
there's some things like that and managing.
The third one is, thank you. We need to determine and implement best practices for holding hybrid meetings. Then I think we're in good shape. Thank you, Claire.
I'm taking these down also, Michelle. Okay.
And I'll put them in the chat.
All right. Anything else? There's somebody else had their hand up too, and I didn't see who it was.
Yeah, it's me, it's Susan. First of all, Claire, thank you. I love seeing some structure and some order in place and, just trying to get some clarity around that. I do think we did start this process with our meeting that we had over at the new apartment complex. And I know that some of the things, while it was, kind of more of a mission statement, we did get pretty practical. I mean, we got down to the nitty gritty and people signed up. people signed with our little John Hancocks as to what they would do. And you know, so if the web stuff's not being done, let's go back and look at who are the people that signed up and said, yep, I'm doing web, and let's have a conversation with those folks. I'm just worried that I don't want us to have another conversation again about, well, who's going to go do that? We had that conversation. People signed up. We all signed up and physically said, we're going to do this. Let's hold people accountable in that. And let's start with that, basically, is my point.
Thank you. Michelle?
Thank you.
And as far as John leaving next March, then we probably need to start thinking about succession planning.
Absolutely. And I wanted to talk about that as well. So I think one of the first things, Susan, to do would be to go and review those notes and make a report and a check-in thing. Is that something that you could do for us?
I'm sorry, but I'm already going to be doing the copywriting, this county copy thing, and it sounds like I'm going to be doing a newsletter as well. So I don't think I'm going to have the bandwidth. I have 2 weeks of company coming in town.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to ask someone to take that on.
Any volunteers to review our list from last year and be the accountability drone?
Well, I think part of that is to see if anybody is either dropping off or adding on, but yeah, we need to start there.
Okay. Well, since
So
Brenda's
do
in
you
here.
have
we'll
the
move forward.
list, Claire?
Pardon me?
Do you have the list?
It's on the G-Doc under board docs retreat. Yeah. You might have to dig around and look for it, but.
If I can get that list, and I'm not really good with GDocs, so
I'm not the only one.
if I can get the list, I am happy.
How about
to
I
go
find
through.
it and email it to you? Are you
Thank
good
you.
with email?
So Beth's gonna take that on then. Is that
Yeah.
what?
Take that on.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, Michelle, you've been doing some stuff with the minutes, and I don't know who and what is going on with the recordings from our Zoom or these meeting recordings. For a while, I was, John, what?
I tried to upload it, the last one, and I discovered that I didn't realize you have to sign in to YouTube as RRCO in order for it to go where it wants.
Yeah.
So one previous month was uploaded, but no one can find it. So I need to get that process to whoever wants to do it, but it's not something I want to take on as an additional task. It would be nice if someone else would do it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Joshua had been doing it, but I don't think he's going to continue.
Well, I was emailing him the links from the meetings and then he was doing it from that, but
That's where it broke. Okay.
yeah.
So do we have an IT person that helps it? That's on, we don't.
Well, Joshua
But
helps on the side.
there's no written agreement or anything else. We ask him and often he says yes, but
Is there talk about any kind of a committee to do that?
all the options. It's not that hard once you know how. You just have to take the link and put it up into YouTube after you've signed into the account.
And that's the kind of stuff that we need to make a system. Okay, after the meeting, this happens, this has some, and then writing it down into the board operations manual.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Hi.
Claire, do we need somebody to look at the board operations manual? I have never seen that document.
We do, and did I send out this document I'm reading for Claire's thoughts about goals, about thoughts on RRCO planning? Did I send that out to everybody, or is that just in my own head?
You sent out a document, you sent out a link to a document that has all these ideas that you're
Yeah,
talking
that's
about
it.
right now.
So
Yeah.
in that document, there's a link to the board handbook.
Yeah, thoughts on RRCO planning. That's it.
Yeah.
And the board document, I think, starts out with 2022. And I did a few updates on it for due to changes in Uchi and other things,
Yeah.
but I didn't go all the way through it.
Just onboarding Brenda, and I don't know about the rest of you newer people, we discovered, oh, we need to tell people about that. That's not word in there. So fresh eyes would be really great, Beth.
Okay, how long is it?
Oh, about 250 pages. I'm kidding. I don't know.
Not very long.
It's-
When would you like a report on that?
In a month.
I don't know. What do you need out of that? I guess I'll have to go back and find the link because I deleted your email.
Oh, well, okay. I'll
But
send it to you when I send you the other one, which I can't
Okay,
remember
that'd
what
be
it
great.
was.
And what would you like from it? I guess.
Well,
Just
I think someone
set
needs
of
to read
eyes on-
through it and redline out stuff that's no longer relevant
Okay,
and add in comments of stuff that's missing.
I sent you the link, Beth. It's in your email.
thanks.
I just forwarded you the mail from Claire.
Thank you, Susan.
No problem.
Okay,
Okay, and by the next board meeting.
yeah.
So by next board meeting, we'll have a new commitment along with people who are going to do it, and hopefully we'll zoom forward.
What do you mean a new commitment?
Well, again, I'm assuming that we will have people who are willing to do this. And that could be the people who agreed to do it last year or new people. I don't know.
Okay, so
Okay,
there's
that's
two
that
pieces.
list from
Right.
our
To
retreat that
to
you're talking
clarify,
about.
yeah, Beth is reviewing the list from the last retreat of to-do items and reviewing the board document.
Right,
And we'll have a report on that next time.
right.
Will be an
Okay.
agenda item for next month.
Very good. Okay. Then, so a second major goal is to build community representation. And what does that mean? Who the hell knows? I'm proposing that we target businesses and renters as, focused outreach to businesses and renters. That's up for discussion. Of course, there's also so many different constituencies we can go for, but that seems to be what we're actually doing right now. And so to do that, one idea that Brenda and Dan and I had is that if we do a targeted outreach, like a door-to-door type of conversation with folks, and not the whole neighborhood, but this pocket or that pocket, and then follow it up with the general meeting that's going to be of interest to those folks. So what has been put on the table is this idea. Dan has this plan to go on August 6th, actually, to go, and he has got a drone. He wants to play with his drone. So he's going to go film the businesses. I think Jan has jet lag.
I can turn off this video if you think I should.
No, it's okay.
Nah, it's okay.
It's okay. So his idea is we're talking to businesses, and I talked to Michael Lambros and for Global Delights to be the test case. And his plan is to kind of zoom into the business, kind of show what it's about, a brief interview with the proprietor, and then post all of these. So it's kind of like a video business directory. And then the business proprietor owns the video, but we use it, and we have it linked to our website and everything. And then, so then Brenda was suggesting that we, in October, follow that up with having a meeting in which we show some of these videos or invite proprietors in, and having a meet and greet with our neighborhood businesses for the neighborhood. So that's a concrete proposal for October, but it's also an example of what we could be doing. Thoughts?
I wonder how many business owners are actually River Road residents.
Well, we would find out, wouldn't we?
Yeah, that would be an interesting one.
Yeah. Susan, I'm not seeing your hand because the captions are on top of it on my screen, so go ahead and speak up.
Okay, sorry, I just didn't want to interrupt. Yeah, the only thing I'd say we want to do is let's just make sure we have a contingency plan. Should something happen to one of the businesses that we're promoting that maybe doesn't align with our, River Road values or something along the lines of that, we just want to make sure we have a contingency plan in the event that it backfires. I believe it or not, I have had a situation where something like that backfired and we didn't have a contingency plan in place. So I've learned that lesson. So just something to think about.
Could you talk to Dan about that? Because I don't have that experience in that, so I don't know I don't have a frame of what that could be.
Yeah, I'll talk to him and just kind of understand really kind of honestly, what kind of document is he having them sign? Because we need to make sure that we can pull that at any time if we need to. We want to be able to pull support if they've gone in and they've committed a blatant act of racism, or somebody threw water on a person on the street. That's not something I want to have promoted, right? So that's a thing to think about. I'll talk to Dan. Yes.
Good point. John.
Yeah, Dan and I talked a little bit about this as well, and Dan made the suggestion that we might have a policy, not necessarily a contingency plan, that we only offer this service to businesses that allow children. So that way we could eliminate pot shops, adult bookstores, and gun shops, for example. That's a possibility. But I do think we do need to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up to have someone come and say, well, you allowed these persons do it, and I have this service that I want to advertise, and you have to let me do it.
Yeah.
So I think
that's the concern I have around the video. If we're producing the video, John, that's the biggest concern I have.
right. And I think we can eliminate some of those concerns with something like what Dan and I talked about. I know that there's some people in the community that would not want us, for example, to advertise McDonald's. But again, I think we need to think about how we feel about that and have a policy that aligns with what we want to do and avoid what we don't want to do.
I think that's a good point, John. And it is in our neighborhood plan, and it's really up to us to implement the pieces of the neighborhood plan that we want to do. And so I kind of view this activity as that piece of business development in the neighborhood plan, but we do have guidance on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens?
What?
What happens next?
Well, that's an example of, do people like that strategy in general? That's one instance. The other instance that I'm thinking is, one reason why I wanted to do the September 9th event is because it's of interest to a broad range of folks, and you'll hear about that in a few minutes. But if it's also something that we can use as a leafleting opportunity, go to people's doors in areas where renters live. So if we have targeted outreach using this event as an excuse to invite them to this event and just have a little conversation with what they're, about RRCO and how RRCO might serve them, then that's another example of having strategic outreach tied to events, tied to the meetings, or getting people signed up on the newsletter or something like that.
I like the idea of focusing on renters. Jefferson West Side made an effort to do that. I can check with them and see what their successes were and what tricks or suggestions they have.
That's great.
I know the city council just adopted a new set of rules for renters in the city. It might be good to bring a bunch of people together in a meeting that talks about, what are the state policies, what are the city policies, who are your advocates, et cetera. So sort of how to be a renter in the neighborhood.
Well, I think that would be a great topic for a general meeting.
Well, that's what we're talking about in October, right? or whenever.
Well, the October was a businesses thing, but it doesn't have to be October. It could be so whenever. We can decide when, but I
Yeah.
think we need to do some substantial outreach for it before then. So that's really the decider.
Right, but we have to have something to offer them that they actually want.
Exactly, exactly. So I think one concern that I have is that we see our work as building stepping stones from helping people go through a process of having a contact with us or a conversation or receiving a newsletter or something, to getting involved in something of interest, you know, an event or a committee, a working committee, whatever, towards greater participation, towards building a bench for the board. Kind of pull all those strings, align all those strings, so we feel like we're getting, you know, moving people somewhere to a direction.
So a
So-
strategic planning committee or something? I'm not sure where you're going.
Where I'm going with that? Well, maybe. I think, I mean, right now we have issues with, I mean, we have a number of passion projects, I'm calling it. We've got the emergency prep, the social justice, the recycling, the business outreach, the environmental stewardship stuff. And each of those reach different folks, but I don't think there's a sense of direction that we share about what are all those about and how. Uh-huh.
I'm not sure I agree. I think that going back again to that meeting that we had, we defined what our mission was going to be.
Yeah,
We defined like, hey, what are we all going to sign up for? I think everybody so far, I haven't heard any surprise in terms of signups. Like you signed up to lead the the September 9th event. Dan was really excited about the drones and the videos then. I've always been excited about the recycling. It doesn't seem real different. And the thing to me is, I think it does kind of ladder up to the mission. So I think maybe what we could do as a next step is step back. You know, Beth's going to take a look at the document and evaluate it with that eye, Beth, and then come back and say, you know what, hey, are we actually kind of doing what we said we were going to do from a mission perspective? And then what are the things that are missing based on the dialogue we're having today? Because I think there's new ideas that have come up today that have been great. And what we said back in March or May, whenever we did that. And then we can discuss it again next week. And that goes in tandem to all the different video, you know, the things that we've signed up to do. I'll still talk to Dan about, you know, the policies / contingency plans, et cetera. But I'm a lot more confident. I'm so excited about the September 9th event and the fact that it is bringing all of these things together. And I think it's a beautiful celebration of the fact that we all have different passion projects, which is kind of what our neighborhood is like.
Yeah.
We're all a bunch of weird people who are obsessed with individual things, but those things together are about making the community a better place. So that's what we're about.
I don't
I'm
disagree. with you,
inspired
Susan.
now. Oh my gosh, I'm inspired. Woo-hoo, let's talk about September 9th.
Woohoo! I'll tell you about that in a minute. So I think the main thing, I'm not disagreeing with you there. I just want us as a board to think more relationally. Like
I agree with that. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with that. That's a valid point.
And to think strategically about, okay, who am I attracting with this event or with this committee, and how can we build them, and how can, you know, we can channel that energy into a general meeting agenda and a follow-up kind of relationship. That's mainly where I'm coming from.
That's different is that we're actually targeting groups to get them involved. Another one I would add would be the school groups. I happen to meet a teacher from Howard Elementary who may be a good contact for us there as well.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay, so that's as far as my thinking has gone so far. And I think we have some next steps moving forward. So I'm happy with that. And we can revisit it next time.
Yeah, let's make this an agenda item for next month as well.
Okay.
Good, thank you. And you're up again.
Next this is the report for September 9th.
Yeah,
Okay. I don't have a written report that I'm reading from, so I have to collect my thought here. The main thing about September 9th is that it's building momentum. We have over 20 participants signed up to offer activities or tables. Some of those are RRCO activities and tables, and some of them are wide ranging. I just connected up with this woman who's new to the neighborhood, who's gonna run a drum circle. So I guess I already told you that, Michelle. So
I love it.
you know, people are excited by the idea. So the next step is to pin down the schedule of participants and to kind of organize the schedule of events and the logistics and the volunteers and what have you. And that's what we'll be talking about at our next meeting on the 31st, Jan. Oh, this is really funny. I said Jan and the caption said Gianni. So you've become Italian now, Jan. So then I have the letter that y'all saw, and the idea with that letter is to have a formal relationship with the rec center about co-sponsoring this event, to kind of build that relationship some more and to get some freebies from them. They you know, so we want them to ask their teachers, like a Zumba teacher or something, different folks to offer, you know, activities. We also want them to let us use their tables and chairs from the annex, maybe, hopefully. And of course, we want them to come. We want them to help promote it. Who did you talk to, Susan, about promoting getting it up on their LCD?
Hold on. If you give me a couple minutes,
Kat?
I'll email
Was it
you.
Kat?
Yeah, it's Kat. It's Kat.
Okay.
It's Kat.
Yeah.
And
So that's-
Kathy led this one this time. So Kathy was talking to Kat predominantly. So if you
Okay.
got any questions, email me or her. Because she
Well,
might know
I
Kathy.
work pretty closely with Kat around newsletter stuff.
Oh,
So,
sweet. Yeah, it's Kat.
okay, very good.
Thank y'all.
So am I good with, I haven't sent out that letter. I had wanted to, I felt more urgent about it and then I forgot about it. So is it good? Is that letter good to send then to them, John?
I move that we approve you contacting the River Road Park and Recreation folks to co-sponsor this event.
Okay,
This is Susan and I second it.
Susan seconds, all in favor?
Well, she called for
Oh,
discussion.
call for discussion. Okay, shall we vote? It's unanimous as far as I can tell. Okay.
Yep.
Cool,
Good.
so I'll go do that tomorrow.
Claire, just before you drop off, I want to make sure you saw my text about the newsletter.
Oh, no, I didn't see your text, thanks.
Just the fans, the fan neighborhood, the friendly area neighborhood group is doing an event this Sunday.
Mhm.
And I sent you the flyer that they just did. I don't
Mhm.
think we have time to get a big flyer out in time to get it ahead of Labor Day weekend, which is when we would need it to land in homes. So I think a postcard might work, and I sent you what they did, and I think it's a good suggestion that we could turn around. So I just wanted you to see it. And
Okay,
also, fans doing an event this Sunday. I can send out the link to everybody or the information to everybody if y'all are interested. But you know, they're doing a sustainability event. You might get some interesting ideas of, and you know, potentially some things we might want to avoid for our own event on September 9th.
good, thank you.
Yeah,
I want to just clarify that we are telling people that this is a celebration of neighborhood River Road talents and assets. It's not a citywide event. Of course, anybody can come, but the people that we're inviting to participate with booze and stuff are neighborhood neighbors.
So how does that relate to Misty's inviting ACT and other folks?
Well, she's not here and she hasn't responded to my need to talk to her about that. I was suggested to her that if ACT wants to come, there's that problem, but also maybe they could organize a workshop on bicycle safety for kids or something like that. I don't know.
She hasn't responded to you. Maybe I should ask her, let her know that we're looking at a local focus,
You're talking about ACT or ATC?
ATC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But and
Um,
she also wanted to invite toxics, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Well, you know,
vision-
she's kind of a rogue player. She goes out and do what she gets inspired to do without checking in about what is our strategy.
Well, when she invites them and they show up, what are we going to do? Just let them in?
Well, it's a public thing. We can't like say go away. What do you mean? I gotta talk to her about it, John. I gotta talk to her. She just hasn't been, you know, she's being misty.
I understand, but I just don't want, if you want it to be local, let's make it local, because she's not marching to that drum.
I understand. She knows she's marching to her own drum, and that's the way she is. And it is on my high priority list to
Okay.
clarify with her.
If you need help, I'm happy to back you up.
Okay, thank you. But speaking of Missy, we should talk about whether or not she belongs on the board anymore. But maybe that's a different agenda item. I'm done with this unless there's any discussion or questions about the event.
Okay. Does the board want me to approach Misty and ask her if she intends to be on the board? We set this day as our meeting date so she could attend, and she's not. So
Let's have a conversation with her and then come back together on it. This is a lot to discuss it without having a lot of discussion about it prior. And I don't know what her record looks like of attendance and all those things, and I'd like to see those before we have a conversation about it. I think it's a good idea to reach out to her. We need to talk to her about participation and all the things that are right, but let's not discuss whether or not we are ready to have that dialogue until we have some data. Please.
So is there anything in the board handbook about attendance?
Yeah,
So
Yes, there is. That's why I'm saying I'd like to get the information ahead of time. So let's
Well,
maybe
the
hold it till
information
next meeting.
is if you miss 3 unexcused meetings, you're subject to for removal by a vote by the board.
Is that
So-
meetings of the board or community organization meetings?
I'll double check, but I don't think it's specific. I will reach out to her and say, we've noticed that you haven't been attending. Can you tell us what that's about? And leave it at that.
well, I would be more direct. I would say we're feeling that, you know, your attendance is not according to our agreements, and how do you want to move? What do you want to do about that?
So is there any criteria that says like after 3, it's 3 unexcused? So and Francis has been keeping track of attendance. So
Right, that's what I'm saying. Can we hold off and get this
Yeah.
data and then have this conversation next week?
yeah,
In the meantime, you need to continue to talk to her about attending and doing things that she's signed up to do that she's not doing accurately because she's not attending the meeting.
Right.
That's a separate dialogue.
2 different perspectives here. One
Okay.
is ask her about her attendance and point out to her that she's not meeting her requirements. And I hear you saying, Susan, that we should, I don't know what else information you need.
We don't know. I don't know how many meetings she has attended. I don't know when she was excused or not excused. That's data that would be recorded by the,
More than 3 unexcused absences.
I
She's-
understand, and I would really like,
Excuse means that we know not to expect her.
right.
But she has to at least let us know she's not going to be here. And she hasn't been doing that.
do we have an immediate plan in place on how we would replace her immediately?
No,
That's another,
Okay, I know, I'm just saying, why don't we step back and instead of making an emotional decision, let's step back. Let's
Nobody's emotional.
understand the data and see what the data says. She had missed this many meetings, board meetings versus general meetings. I personally think of those differently. And we can then also have a plan in place if at that time we as a board come together with more than just 6 of us. And we want to have a vote, or someone would call for a vote for that at that purpose. Does that make sense?
makes
I'm
sense
just
to
saying,
me.
let's pause and get some information versus jumping into this. It's not an agenda item right now.
Right, I agree.
okay, so you're proposing we have an agenda item at the next board meeting to look at the data and decide whether we want to approach this? I mean, Okay,
I didn't bring it up. I don't know. It's really, and you brought it up. so
I,
the
the
approach-
motion that I would have is that the discussion be tabled till next month. And in the interim, we check in with Misty that we're planning this discussion for next month, that we get a good report, an accurate report, and that we coordinate with her more closely about her participation in the event.
and that sounds very different to me than what Susan says. So which one are we gonna do?
How is that different from what Susan said?
I got the impression that let's gather our information in advance and then have a discussion, then approach Misty. You're saying, talk to Misty, let her know that she's not meeting her requirement.
No,
Yeah.
there's
John,
some business
excuse me.
to be done with Misty that can't wait a month.
Correct. There is a
That's all
meeting-
I'm saying.
There is the special work that needs to happen around September 9th. I think that dialogue needs to happen because she
Right
signed
away.
up to do something. So I think that conversation needs to be had at that time. If y'all want to talk about it, if y'all get into those dialogues, that's something that the co-chairs can do, or whoever's discussing with her can do at that time. And then at the same time, if we can get the information from Frances on how many meetings she has missed since March of this year, which would be the start of this calendar, correct? Or is it March when we change
Yeah.
people? So as of March, how many has she missed? And then we can come together and discuss it. If
My-
necessary, as a meeting, I don't know if it needs to be an agenda item, John. I'm just saying, I think that we should get that information before we jump on approximation.
Well, in my tenure of the past 10 years, we've never removed somebody for not attending. But we've never had anybody who didn't attend as frequently as she has.
Right.
So I think it has to be an agenda item if we're going to act, and I think we should give her, Claire, have a good conversation with her and report back to us. I'll take,
I just want to say we shouldn't blindside her. We should let her know that this is a conversation that's going on.
that, I think that's important to be fair. to
That's a good point.
And I will, well, actually, Michelle, could you work with Frances and figure out what her attendance is?
Absolutely.
Claire, have you had Misty ask you to be excused?
No,
I don't recall that I have either. Okay, so we'll see where we get next month.
you're right.
Thank you, everybody. Dan's not here. So we can do update on business out. I guess we have done the update on business outreach.
Yeah, I folded it into the other one.
Okay. So,
Oh, sorry, can I just hop in really quick? Maybe just in the light of fairness, maybe we get everybody's attendance for all these meetings since March as opposed to just one person's.
that's fair.
Okay, that's just, there's
Are-
more than one person that
Yeah.
hasn't attended. And what I don't want to have is a situation where maybe we have bias or appear in any way or shape or form bias. So let's just get the
Good.
information of everyone's attendance, please. Thank you.
Fair enough. Is that okay with you, Michelle? Can you give us a report on board attendance since March? Thanks. Okay, we have only one thing left unless anyone wants to add anything, and that is what do we want to do for future meetings? Let's start with August. For the past several years, we have made August our Meet the Electeds meeting because this is the one of two times a year when our city councilor can be available to meet with us because they meet on Mondays. We tried to move our meeting from Mondays. We couldn't make that happen. But Lindsay is available and willing to meet with us.
Tired of annoying ads.
Sorry.
Okay.
And is Lindsay willing to confirm? Because I am very excited that she might show up, but she's kind of notorious for confirming and not coming.
As I said, she said she's willing and available. I sent out a message to all the people who we normally invite. And I apologize, I didn't do it until yesterday. I heard back from Lindsay and from Senator Manning. The problem with what we've done in the past is we've invited our two representatives to the legislature, our city councilor, In some cases, we have invited Sonia Carlson, who's our water e-web counselor, our commissioner. And it turns out with all those people giving them 3 minutes to speak, it takes up most of the meeting. And I think I'm going to propose we do this a little differently, assuming that Sonia Carlson is available. There's a lot going on at eWeb right now, and it's going to have a major impact on your bill over the next several years. They're building a secondary source, which is going to cost, I think it's $80 million. They're building new reservoirs. They're having to replace pipes. Your bill's going to go up. The other thing is that eWeb is doing a strategic plan to identify where their energy sources are going to come from in the future. They're looking at either more biomass or nuclear power as a way to fill the need. So I think that's an important discussion item for the neighborhood. So an alternate, rather than have everybody in the world come and talk to us for a few minutes, is if Sonia is available to just focus on Sonia and eWeb and Lindsay and the city council. So what are your thoughts?
I think that's a brilliant idea. That would give enough time for meaningful discussion.
And Pat Farr has attended a couple other meetings, so it would actually be balancing your county representation, city representation, and then eWeb.
Our
Well,
county
Pat
commissioner
isn't our representative.
I'm
anymore.
sorry.
He just
Yeah, not
spent a
Pat.
whole
The other
meeting.
guy. The other guy.
Senator, who's
There
been
you go.
in the past 4 months.
And we just
Yeah.
spent a whole meeting with him.
Right.
Right. I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that since we've already had meetings with him, I
Yeah.
think having those other two gives us a very fair and balanced, representation.
So let's move with that as our first option. If Sonia is not available, and we invited her to our previous meeting, and for some reason she insisted on going to her son's piano recital instead of coming to our meeting. My point is that she may not be available. Who would be a alternate if she's not available? Is there any one of those folks who Brian Senega, James Manning, Nancy Nathanson,
The mayor,
Pardon?
is it the mayor? Have we had the mayor come?
Well, we could invite the mayor. That's a possibility. We haven't in the,
Ricky.
pardon?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We haven't invited her in the past because 2/3 of us are not city residents, but we could.
No, it's okay. Never mind.
No,
But I
I'm
think
not
that-
arguing we shouldn't. I'm just saying we haven't.
Well, I honestly, with some of our AV issues, et cetera, maybe we just kind of limit it to two.
Yeah. If anybody else as a backup, I would say a state rep, Nancy is my preference. But
Okay, so first docket would be Lindsay and Sonia. If Lindsay's already agreed, if Sonia's not available, then I will ask Nancy, and if Nancy's not available, I'll go with James Manning.
sure.
Sure,
Okay.
sounds good.
Good. Okay, that takes care of August. September, we're talking about businesses, is that right?
I don't know if it would be a September or an October.
She said October, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, I've at least strived to have more than 1 month out. Any thoughts about September? Do you think we could get a renters meeting together by September and do the outreach to get folks to come? Or is that too early?
Well, I was thinking we could fold the outreach to renters into the outreach for the September 9th event. If we,
I'm not sure what you're saying, Clara.
that when doing, my idea for door-to-dooring for September 9th was to focus on the apartment buildings on east of River Road. So it would be, outreach to renters,
So
dual
that
purpose.
sounds like a good time to have a program on renters and have two offers in one outreach, no?
Yeah. Yeah, that would work. And
It's just, my only question is just, a lot of people are already committed to helping support the event. I'm afraid of enough support to get the right people for the renters event. And in addition to your event, the event on September 9th is the only flag I'd raise.
I didn't quite catch what you were saying. Could you repeat it, please?
I'm sorry, I think my earbuds are dying. My only concern is, do we have enough people to do logistics on setting up that meeting with renters, as well as setting up the event on September 9th, and not having too much burden on the same people? And that's the biggest concern I have. Thank you.
Oh, good point. We need to recruit help with leafleting. Setting up logistics is something John usually does in terms of bringing who to bring to be the speakers. Is that what you mean? And we're recruiting a lot of people from the community to do the September 9th event. I see Jan's hand.
Go ahead, Jan. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm catching up a little bit. I don't understand what is the issue for a meeting about renters.
Earlier, we talked about doing specific focus to get people to attend meetings who don't normally attend. And one of those groups was renters. So the idea was that we have an event, a meeting on information that would be of interest to renters, such as, what are the city rules about your apartment being safe? What's the rules that the city and the state have now come up with on how evictions, all those kinds of things, to educate them. There may be other things that would be of interest to renters, but I think those are the things we had talked about earlier.
Okay, thanks.
And there's new policies coming out right now, so it's a topical issue.
And not so much focus on which bills did and didn't get through the legislature, which is what we had last month.
Yeah,
What does it mean for you?
yeah.
And Dan would be a good person to talk to about this too. As a renter, what does he see of issues that would be of interest?
Yeah.
And it would be a good balance of the woman who complained about renters not being part of the neighborhood at our last general meeting.
Well, call her up and ask her to help.
Okay, so what it sounds like is we will shoot towards October being a business outreach, September being a renter outreach. I'll work with Claire and others to figure out what might make a program of interest to renters, and we'll start developing that. Is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? We actually might end 20 minutes early, folks.
Well, wait a minute. Can't get too excited, Michelle. We haven't heard from Jan about what's hot in Italy.
Dan was dreamt about telling us a story, and he'll tell us the next visit. Did you have a nice nap, Jan?
Yeah, well,
We're having fun. We're having fun. Don't worry.
I imagine you're jet lagged.
no, not too much. Without going into any great detail, it was a pretty amazing trip, and I had a chance to see a lot of places. I've been in Lithuania and Latvia, and I went through Poland and Hungary just to see how people live. This wasn't a trip to go to museums, and that kind of stuff. I was real interested to see what public places look like. I just like hearing anecdotal stories, about people's lives. I met a fair number of permaculture people in Sardinia, and I miss the really heat. The one day I went to Rome, it was probably 95, but I think it was hotter than that more recently. But so I don't know if this would be, if there was a point in when we were planning meetings where a slideshow of public places would be of interest in terms of, you know, how do other countries and other cities, you know, what kind of infrastructure or items do they have, you know, to bring people together in public places. So at some point I'll do a kind of a show and tell about my trip, and I'll let the board know when that happens. But just a lot of stories, and the travel was pretty stressful at times too. I had a bicycle with me, and traveling with a bicycle was a little bit of a hassle, getting it on and off trains and buses, stuff like that. But it was a great trip, and I'm glad I came home. You know, I was you can be in Europe for 3 months, and I was there for about that, and lots and lots of stories, you know. And but I got a lot to do here, and I feel kind of a little remiss for advocating a community event and then being gone. So I'm definitely planning on helping out a bunch with that, and appreciate those who carried on with the idea, you know, and of developing that important event on September 9th. So I'm here to help out with that too. So anyway, that's enough.
Thanks, Jan. Welcome home.
I just had a thought. Susan, do you have everything you need to put a postcard together?
Susan, you and I need to work on that together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought we already talked about that you and I
Yeah.
were gonna touch base, and that I sent you the fan postcard as an example.
Yeah,
Of what we can do.
we got it covered.
Cool.
Okay, good. Okay, I think we got it. I'll try to get out a list of everything we agreed to, and I'll run it by Michelle to make sure I got everything.
Thank you,
All right,
everybody.
thanks, everybody.
You.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for everybody's volunteering.
Save the chat. Save.
Yeah, save the chat, please.
I think you can save the chat if you want, onto your own computer by clicking on the chat window, and down at the bottom, there's 3 little dots. You click on the little dots and it says save chat, and it'll go to your own computer.
Yep. And the only thing I see in there is the part that I suggested adding to your list, Claire.
Ah, okay.
I don't see it. I
Well,
don't see it.
maybe I didn't send it.
I didn't see it either, but I wrote them down in the document.
There, I did everything but put it out there.
Okay.
Do you see it now, Michelle?
But, you know, we didn't all
Uh,
sign into the chat like we supposed to, so it's not going to be very good for
Okay. Yep, I got it.
attendance.
Recorded.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank y'all.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks,
Have a good evening.
everybody.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. How's your foot doing?
My foot.
You said you were having trouble walking. I thought it was your.
Oh, well, my foot's connected to my knees, connected to my hip.
I could dig it.
I have an appointment for new shoes coming up. I go to this place that custom fits shoes with supports in them for me.
Uh-huh.
So that'll help. All right.
Good. Okay, I'll let you go.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.